This is episode number 28 with Andrea Porter. Hello and welcome to Chase Your Star. I'm your host, Monica Carter Tagore, here to inspire and empower you to take courageous action to write your book, build your brand, and live the life you desire. When you are ready to go for all life has for you, it's time to chase your star. Let's do it. In this episode, I speak with author and women's empowerment speaker Andrea Porter. In our conversation, Andrea shares how she was able to get her personal brand established and to become known in her local area as a women's empowerment speaker and author, and how she's looking to expand her reach even further in this new year. She also shares some of the grassroots efforts she took to begin her career years ago, including going door to door, something a lot of people don't want to do in the social media age, but as you can hear from Andrea's experience, it does work. And today she is known for her work. She is known for what she is able to help women do and how she's able to empower them and inspire them. And she hosts events, writes and blogs, and does lots of other things to keep her brand solid and growing. I would like to even talk a bit about kind of those labels for a minute as we go into this conversation, because you know, a big label you wear is women's empowerment speaker. And actually you're a women's empowerment author, because I mean your books are even about women's issues as well. So you're just like women's empowerment all over the place. So when you are looking at your scope of work and deciding where you want to focus, why did you choose to focus on women's empowerment and of course women in general?
I wanted to focus on women empowerment and women in general because for myself as a woman, I've gone through a lot. And while I was going through those things, I really didn't have anyone to help me, to empower me, to lift me up. And so I wanted to be that person that could, go back after God had finished doing what he needed to do inside of me to be able to lift somebody else up and say, brush them off and say, hey, it's going to be okay. I went through X, Y, Z, and look, I'm here, I'm overcomer. So that's why I went through that phase of, women issues instead of, because I could have gone into anything. But this is what I chose because it is my passion. I love it. I love to, I love it when women come back to me and say, hey, because of that one-on-one talk that we had, I was able to move from being in this relationship to a more, healthier place in my life. It may not be that they move from one relationship to a new healthy relationship, but they may have moved from an unhealthy relationship to a new healthier place within themselves to where they don't have to depend on any unhealthy relationships.
Well, that's a pretty big deal. When you are looking at addressing women and addressing women's issues, did you start out when you were writing novels all those years ago, did you start out with the idea of women's empowerment, or was that something that your career kind of evolved into? How did it start for you?
To be honest with you, I think it evolved because when I originally started writing, for me, it was a healing process. That's how it began. And it was therapeutic for me because that was when God was dealing with me as a person, as an individual. He was dealing with me with things that I needed to be addressed. And as I grew, as I matured in my relationship with God, I was able to see certain things that inside of me, undesirable things inside of me that I knew that he was purging, because when God reveals something to you, you don't reveal it just to reveal it. You reveal it so you can work on it, so you can work on it with him together. And so while I was actually, writing these books, and, a lot of these characters kind of reminded me of situations that I've been in. And as I was writing these things, I was like, man, you know what? I can relate. Even though I was writing it in fiction, I was able to go back way back in my, in my younger days and say, I used to do that. And so as I grew and I said, well, you know what, if I used to do that, then I'm sure that there's a woman out there that either one used to do that or is doing that. And you know what, this stuff can help them. And so it evolved into something more than just me wanting to be an author and me just wanting to have my book read, by fans. And it just grew into something different, and it actually evolved into ministry, because this is my ministry now. I have Andrea Porter Ministries, and that's basically deals with empowering women on a whole different level.
Huh.
Other
When
than
did when did you realize that your work was moving into that area where you were seeing this as a ministry, and of course where you were empowering women? When you did you start to get feedback from other people, or did you hear from women who said, well, you know what, you were speaking directly to me, or you touched my heart? And what was that feedback like? What did it do for you to know that your work was really touching them in this way?
one of the major things that happened was a young lady that came from Jamaica. Now, look how far that was. Someone from here in the United States brought my book to Jamaica to her, and she read it. And the part that touched her heart was, I talk about celibacy. You know my book and what they're based around. They're based around abstinence. Because when I say celibacy means you're never going to have sex again, and you're probably going to go into nunhood. So let's use the word abstinence. Abstaining from sexual activities. And, she came here and she said, I really wanted to meet you because when I read your book, it made a choice to not have sex before marriage. You were able to make that change within me. And for someone to say that to me, one, it says a lot about my book, because I've always wanted to write something that would help someone. Not a book that basically is for fun or just you read it and put it down. I wanted it to be where when I wrote it, that it speak to you. It compels you to want to make some changes, whatever it is that was in the book, whether it was celibacy, whether it was being, trying not to be in an unhealthy relationship, or whether it was being, wanting to be committed to God. And there are different things in my book that I can say, whatever it is that woman needed at that time, it was in there. A lot of different women came out of the woodworks. And again, same thing. You know what, Andrea? Because you wrote that book, it did something in me. And I mean, this book felt so real to me because, one, I wrote it in the first person. So when you're reading it, it's as if you're reading a book that is about you. So if you're going through those things, guess what? It's going to be like, the book is talking to you or talking about you
directly to
and
you.
so exactly. So I had a lot of feedback, and it was very good feedbacks from women. And as I realized that, what, this is not just a book. This is not just me telling a story. This book is doing something for women that I didn't even think about. And so as I got those feedback, it made me wanted to live up, not just, I don't want to say the expectations of others, but I wanted to live up to the expectation of what I put out there. I wanted to make sure that whatever I put out there and other women or these same women come back and read something of mine, it would not change their view of me as a person in the long run. And so it changed me. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt you for just a second, because you have hit up on something that I think is so important. It bears just focusing on right now, and that is authenticity. I am doing a lot of work right now in helping people to build their personal brands. And you just said that you wanted to make sure that you were living in a way that reflected what you were writing. So can you talk about why it was important for you to kind of live out what you were sharing? Because a lot of times, people talk about you should do this or you should do that, but they're not necessarily living that. So why was it important for you to kind of live what you were sharing in your book?
Well, one thing, nothing is hidden under the sun, and you can only pretend with people for so long. And transparency is important, because what people don't understand is, you can sit on a platform and you can talk until you're blue. But if you have a person that's very good at discerning, in other words, they're able to read you, they're able to pick up on certain things, your actions, it's not so much of what you say, it's so much about what you do. And I try to live my life in such a manner, not just in public, but privately, so that I don't have to try to pretend to be somebody else when I'm out in public. What you see in public is what's going on in private, and it shows it shows in me when people approach me, or they meet me for the first time. They can tell that what I've written or what I've presented is who I am. it never changes, and so that is important for you to be transparent, because your transparency is going to be the key. People want to be with someone who's not fake. They want to deal with a person that is true, a person that is going to tell it like it is, and they're not going to pretend to be one thing and then they're wanting you to be something else.
Okay. Well, and you have built this brand as we mentioned earlier, of course, a women's empowerment speaker, but also a Christian women's empowerment speaker. So there's even more specificity there. So what were the challenges with you as it related to being able to build this brand? I mean, it didn't just happen out of thin air. So what were the challenges for you, and how difficult was it to build a brand like this? I believe you have a tagline that says, what, getting fit for God?
Yes, I do. Getting fit for God, physically, spiritually, financially, mentally, and emotionally. Yes, you are right. It's not easy to present anything new. And the reason why I say anything new is, one, when people don't know you, it's hard, because they're like, okay, well, what is she about? Is she real? Is she going to be somebody that's just full of, air, as to speak? And the thing that it was like an uphill battle, because I had to go out there and present myself, and people had to see me. And again, that transparency, I had to be open with people. I had to share things that God, gave me, the ability to share without making me feel like I've shared too much. In other words, I didn't overshare. I use wisdom in order to build that platform. And what it is once people are able to identify with you, then it's not so hard building the brand. It's just that they need to know who you are, what you're about. And I don't go to people trying to sell them anything. When you go to a person, you're going to just getting to know them. Getting to know them and them getting to know you. You are your brand. You're automatically selling yourself by how you present yourself. And so it took a lot of going to different events, talking to different people, being consistent with what it is I'm producing. And over time, people started to realize, okay, well, she's an author. These are the type of books she's written. They're very consistent. This is what she's about. You know what? Let me have her come speak to my conference, or, let me have her come speak to my library, or let me have her come speak to my breakfast brunch. So different things started happening, and different people started to get to know me by name, and then by face. They can say, hey, you know what? Oh, Andrea Porter. Yeah, I know. I can put the face with the name, and so it gradually grows. It's about, and people think that door to door is out. No, I did a lot of door to door foot patrol, going to different businesses, talking to people, that I don't know and don't know me. And so it was an uphill battle, and it still is an uphill battle, because guess what? People know you now in the community and outside of your community. But if I'm trying to reach the world, then I'm having to expand, and then I have to start to meet different people and new people. So that's how it was for me. I don't know how it was for anybody else. That's how it was for me.
Well, and you know what? You mentioned the idea of door to door and things like that. And I know when I was a new author 100 years ago, I did door to door work as well. And I still think that there's something about getting in front of people in their physical space. I know we spend a lot of time in the online space, and that drives a lot of traffic, that drives a lot of interest, and that really helps us build our brands. But there's something about actually interacting with someone in the same physical space.
Yes.
Tell us about how you're able to work on your social media now, online now, as well as what you're doing offline, so that you're able to bring online and offline together to build the brand of Andrea Porter.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that, because right now I'm working with someone who is going to change how I do things. A lot of what I do is I try to get up in the morning time and I post. I'll think about the night before what I want to really put on. Hootsuite is a very good app to use, because you can put your stuff in and it'll actually post for you. And so a lot of what I do with my posting on social media is just to remain consistent with my brand. In other words, if I know that I'm doing something as far as with my books, I need to gear whatever I'm actually posting on social media around my book. But I don't just stick to that, because one of the things is you don't want to keep forcing your brand on people. In other words, you don't want to keep your product, not your brand, your product. You don't want to keep forcing your product down people's throat. So, in between there, I'll throw a little bit of, funny stuff. I don't know if you saw on Facebook where I put today that my son decided that he wanted me to have a baby, and so just little different things so people can know that I'm a real person, that they realize, okay, she's not just a businesswoman, but she's funny too, and she has funny things going on in her life. So you know what? Her life sounds like it's just like mine. And so that's what I try to do on social media. I don't just make it about my business. I try to make it as if you're part of the family. You're part of what I'm doing. And so because you're part of what I'm doing, you're involved. It's not going to be a surprise of what I'm doing. You're in the know. And so that's how I basically do my social media. That's how I do everything on social media. I try to, even with my ministry, I try to put people, in there so they can go on there and communicate and talk and, laugh and just have a good time.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that you were looking at doing some things differently this year in terms of your business. Can you talk about any of those things right now, or are they top secret, or what are you thinking?
They're kind of top secret because we're brainstorming right now. But, it's good because one of the things that I was able to come to the understanding is that there's some things that I'm doing great. And there are some things that I'm doing not so great. And that's the one thing about being a business owner. You have to be able to handle criticism. And you have to be able to be teachable. And, you have to be teachable. And also, don't take anyone for granted, because when you have someone who is willing to mentor you at their cost, not your cost, when you have somebody that's willing to mentor you at their cost, you take whatever it is they're doing seriously, because they don't have to give you their time, And so right now I have someone who's mentoring me and showing me a few little things that I need to tweak in order to make this get on the larger scale, a bigger level than what it is on now. Because I'm thinking futuristic. I'm thinking, bigger. I want bigger. Now I think I've conquered, my community and the surrounding community, and I want to branch out. I really need to spread my wings like an eagle and just fly. And so that's what we're working on right now. But it's in the works. It's not done yet. So you may want to interview me again for the remaining information on that.
Well, I look forward to that, and I'm just so excited for you and for the potential and the possibility of the future, because I already know there's a lot in you. I've gotten to know you, and I think you're a dynamic person, and I just look forward to you being able to share that on a bigger stage. Talk for a minute about some of the projects you're working on now. I believe you are teaching other people how to publish their books. So can you talk about your upcoming event?
I am. I have an actual event called Write, Publish, Market. Okay. And I think a lot of people misconstrue what market is, especially because they don't realize that, your book needs to be marketable. That's one thing. And I think a lot of people say, well, she's going to teach me how to market stuff. No, not really. I'm going to teach you how to market your book, how to make your book be appealing so that when you put it on a bookshelf, it doesn't look like... Pick it up. Exactly. Exactly. Because I've seen, and why I've actually wanted to do that for this community here in Beaumont is because I've come across a few books that authors, and they're good books. Don't get me wrong. They're good books. The content is good, and what they're actually selling is good, but the cover may not necessarily be good. And so I'm wanting to teach them how to get a book that looks as if a traditional publisher published it and that is not self-published. Because just because it says self-published doesn't mean you have to, give them a self-published book. It doesn't have to have binders or what are those things that you, those pamphlet books that have those little spiral.
Stitching and all the different spiral and all of those different types of binding. Yes, I got you.
Exactly. So I wanted to
Saving.
show them, inexpensive ways because, I've learned so much from, having a relationship with you and doing my research. I remember when
Right.
I first started and I had questions and you gave me the answers and pointed me in the direction. You didn't do the work for me, but you pointed me in the right direction. You told me what to do and I went ahead and researched it. Well, for these people, instead of pointing them in the right direction and sending them to go get it, I've actually went and got it for them. So I have the step by step for everything for them in a pamphlet. And I'm going to teach them a 2 to 3 hour course on how to write, publish your work. Okay. A lot of people don't know how to start writing. They think that they have to have this elaborate thing going on and they don't realize that the simple thing is get you a Microsoft Word. That's the first thing you need.
Hmm.
Okay. And then you need to create like a plot. People don't know the difference between a plot, outline, and a synopsis. They think that they're the same things and they're not. So it's all about wanting to do something in this area that's going to help young authors. And when I say young, it's not necessarily age, but people who really don't know. They've written something. It's good content, but the cover may need to be changed, or they may need to, use a different printer to print their work because number one, they may be using a printer that's costing them an arm and a leg. So I'm going to just give them these tools to help them to be successful. So that way, the same blessing that was given to me is given to them. So that's what I'm going to be doing on the 28th of January.
Well, in fact, can you give the details? Where can people find out more information about this event?
Sure. You can go to B as in boy, M as in Mary, publications.net and that's my personal website. And you can actually get all the information from there. If you have any questions or concerns about the actual, event as well, you can send me a message via my contact on my website. Also, I'm on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page, which is very popular. Facebook page, it's www.facebook.com/Bold Moves Publications. And you can also learn information there. And there's also a link where you can click onto my event Bright page. So if you know you want the work and you're wanting the help, you basically just click on the link. It'll take you right there. You can purchase your ticket. And it's here in Beaumont, Texas. It's going to be at 745 Pruitzman Road here in Beaumont, Texas. It's going to be on Saturday, January 28th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Well, and so for anyone who is interested in learning how to write, publish, and market your book, then Andrea is going to be presenting live a workshop on January 28th in the Houston area in Beaumont, Texas. So if you're in that area, certainly you would want to possibly attend. But if you're anywhere in cyberspace, anywhere in the world, feel free to go to her website and join her mailing list so then she can share book writing, publishing, and marketing information with you on an ongoing basis. So the learning doesn't stop just on that day. So anyone can be able to learn from her. So thank you so much for sharing that. I actually want to go back to talking about the evolution of your career for a moment, as we've talked about your brand and how this evolved into women's empowerment and Christian women's empowerment. Can you talk about how your publishing journey has helped you grow as a person?
Oh wow, that's a very big one right there. Well, number one, when you decide to become a owner of something, which is a publishing company, that was my baby. It started out small, now it's a lot bigger. It forces you to grow. You have no choice but to mature. And of course, I use my other experiences from other jobs that I've had to bring it over in my business. But how it's helped me to mature is number one, not to take anything for granted. Okay, because a lot of times we take our businesses for granted and we become lazy and we don't want to really do too much because I'll give you a prime example. When I first started out writing my book and I decided to do this, I wasn't getting the notice that I desired. Okay. Now I could have stopped at, I could have stopped the moment I started and it didn't go the way that I planned. I could have said, okay, well, you know what? I had my first book signing. Not a lot of people showed up. I'm just going to go ahead and stop here. But no, I didn't stop there. When this helped me to learn what perseverance meant. It helped me to learn what patience meant. it also taught me self-discipline, because your business will discipline you. You know, if you know you want your business to be successful, this is not going to a regular 9 to 5. You know, you have to get up in the morning. You have to, especially if you're doing it from home, just because you're at home doesn't mean you have to look like you're at home. If you know you have a business, you need to get up in the morning, take your shower, put your makeup on. If you don't wear makeup, don't worry about it. But get dressed for success, because if you're dressed for success, then you're going to be successful, because you never know when that call is going to come in and say, hey, Miss Porter, can you meet with me? You have to be ready to be able to meet with somebody at any moment, because what if they call when you're really not doing anything? You're like, oh my God, I'm not dressed. I'm going to have to get dressed. You know, can you give me 30 minutes? Give me, but that person can only meet you right now. So it taught me how to be presentable at all times, it also taught me how to have passion for what I do. And that's not just in my work, but with anything that I'm doing, give 150%, not just give, 45 or 60, but give all of me into it. And not only that, think about it as if you're working for God. So it taught me a lot about how to be a person that works with integrity. So, I mean, those are the things that I believe that my business taught me over time. And I'm sure there are other things too, but I really can't think of that.
Well, do you have a piece of advice that you would give the Andrea of however many years ago when you were just starting out? If that Andrea who had stars in her eyes and who didn't really know what the future held, what one piece of advice would you give to her? Because there are going to be a lot of people who are listening to this who are at that point now, and they don't know where to go for information. They don't know how to write a book, how to publish it, how to market it, how to make it successful. They don't know how to build a brand around an authentic value related to them. So can you give them that piece of advice as you give that advice to your younger self? What do they need to look out for?
Okay, that's a very good one. And I have a few things that I would give. And first, I would say this. I don't try to, I'm very spiritual. So everything that I connect to is always going to be something to do with God, because I would not be here had not, that had not been for him. And so I don't want to feel like I'm force feeding someone, to become a Christian, or am I trying to convert you? I'm really not. However, the first thing that I would actually tell someone is to make sure that you are in alignment with God. Because I truly believe, had I not been in alignment with God, I would not have connected with you, Monica. And had I not had the actual, the spirit in me to connect to another spirit, to realize when God told me to call you. And, because remember, we talked about it. I called other people that told me, hey, I'm going to help you. But they did not. Mm-hmm. They did not. And we never really talked. We exchanged numbers, but we didn't really get to talk. And I remember looking at your card and I was like, I really don't want to call her, because she's probably going to be like one of the other people who tell me, give me a call. We can connect, whatever. But I remember in my spirit, it was so strong to call you that I finally gave in and did that. And so my thing is, make sure you're aligned with God, but also listen to your spirit, mm-hmm. because your spirit never brings you wrong. It's like your internal GPS. It's going to connect you where you need to be connected. And because of that connection, I was able to be be mentored and being able to be directed in the right place. Now, the next thing that I want to tell someone who's, in my younger self is don't overprint. Mm-hmm. Know your inventory. Okay? Because that's one thing that I did. I overprinted. And I wish that I could go back and change some of that overprinted, because I'm still trying to get rid of that extra inventory. Okay. Which is okay, because guess what? it turned out to be a good thing. But I, at the time, did not know that. And after, months and years start to roll around, you still have the same inventory. You're like, okay, what's up? And so I would definitely tell someone, don't overprint. And you know what? Be patient. Be patient. Rome was not built in one day. It really wasn't. So if you know you want it, you have a passion for it, think about it this way. If you could do this and not make a penny from it, would you still do it? Because guess what? It's not work when you're working it for passion, not profit. And that's one of the things that if I had told myself that a few years back, it would have cost me a lot less stress and anxiety, because it is my passion. And at the time, I didn't realize that it was a passion. It was not about wanting to put a book out there so people could read it and, they have fun with it. I didn't realize that it's a ministry. Know in your heart why you're writing it. Know why you're writing it. Because at the time, like I said, it was therapy for me. And, a person that's listening, that may not be what your book is for you. But if it is not what your book is for you, then you have to know exactly why you're writing it. Are you writing it because, you see books out there and you feel like you can write a book? Or are you writing it because you're passionate about what you're writing? Because that's going to make a difference.
Wow. Well, thank you for that insight for sure, because I know, again, there are going to be some people who are at the beginning of their journeys and they're going to be wondering just, what do I need to do going forward? And by you sharing that will really help them to really start to think about the path ahead of them. And that could influence some of their decisions, because if they know now that really I need to be passionate about this, because passion is pretty important, because especially in those early days where it may take a little bit of time for you to really get your momentum, then you've got to have passion to carry you through. Otherwise, you'll abandon this project and go on to something else. So thank you for mentioning that. I think passion is very important, because passion can help to carry you on when you're getting a little discouraged, when you don't know what to do, and even when you're getting feedback that you'd rather not. So passion can help you there, and eventually passion can also kind of continue to fuel you, but in the beginning especially is important. And I think passion also kind of is something that other people can feel, because your readers can tell if you're writing something that you feel passionately about and that you are interested in, versus it's just something that you're just throwing words on a page. So passion is pretty important when you are being an author and when you are writing a book. So thank you for sharing that. And of course, the other insight you shared as well. What are you looking for? And we'll wrap up here because I know you have to get back to your day. Thank you so much. But what are you looking for in this year of 2017? What's kind of on the radar for you in terms of your business and in terms of your ministry?
Oh, that is actually an amazing question, because I have so much going on right now that I'm like, oh my God. But like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But what I'm looking for, to be honest with you, this year is not so much for more events. I'm looking to impact more people with my ministry. And what I'm focusing right now on is singles.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm focusing on singles is because I've been single for a while, and I noticed that as singles, we need to be positioned for purpose. And a lot of singles are not positioned for purpose. So I have a lot of events, the actual workshop being one of them. Even though it doesn't target just singles, I'll be talking to people there that I'm sure is going to be single about my other events that I have going on. But what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to collaborate with other like-minded people, a lot of different like-minded people, to come up with different events to target singles. And again, my slogan, to help them to get fit for God, which is get them spiritually fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, financially and physically fit. So what I've done with those 5 things is I've found 5 different speakers who basically are trained in speaking to people's spirit in concerning those 5 things. Me being one of those actual speakers, but the other 4, I've had different deal with finances, and different people who actually deal with the physical body, like a personal trainer, or somebody that has like health and fitness, or someone who's into nutrition. And so my basic focus this year is to be able to empower and elevate singles to a higher level of living. Not them just, going out to party and going to church every Sunday, but to help them have a passion, for wherever God is taking them, because there's so many singles that they have something that they can do to impact the kingdom of God, but they're not doing it.
Wow. So
They're not,
really
because they're
feeding
afraid.
into these people, then it sounds like this is a year of ministering to the whole person and specifically focused on singles, because you're talking about getting fit for God. You're helping them in the financial realm, mentally, physically, in so many ways. So I am excited about what you are going to do and the lives you are going to touch, because there are people who are intended to be touched by what you say and by the ministry you have. And so I know that you're going to do a great work this year. Thank you so much for sharing a piece of that work with us here today. Is there anything you would like to add about your projects or anything like that before we go? And then, of course, I would like for you to just, again, tell us your website and social media where people can be able to find you. So is there anything you'd like to add in terms of kind of your work, or have we covered pretty much everything?
You've covered pretty much everything. You've covered it all. I do want people to know that bmpublications.net is for my publishing company and my books. My ministry is something totally different, which is AndreaPorterMinistries.org. So if you're wanting to know a lot more about that portion of what I do for women empowerment, you can definitely go to that website as well and connect with me there. But if you're wanting to get your work published, or you have questions about, writing a book or publishing a book or marketing a book, then you can definitely reach me at the bmpublications.net website via contact. And you can also find me on Facebook as well, which is facebook.com Bold Move Publications. It's the same thing with my Andrea Porter Ministries. Just put in facebook.com/Andrea Porter Ministries. And there you have it.
Well, thank you so much. You have been able to cover the gamut and talk to us about being able to build your career as an author and having that to evolve into a women's empowerment brand. And I am, as I said earlier, excited about the work you're going to do and already the lives you've already touched. And I want our listeners to really get the point that this did not happen overnight for Andrea. Building a brand isn't something that happens instantly like that, but it happens with a lot of intention and with a lot of thought and with a lot of consistent behavior. She had to keep showing up, keep producing books, keep blogging, keep holding events. And of course, she's holding a lot of events in this coming year, to keep putting herself out there, keep posting on social media the appropriate content and all of those things, and that has resulted in her having a brand where people are getting to know her a lot more. She's gotten to be known a lot around her community, and now she's expanding that nationally and, by God's grace, internationally. She has people, you said, what was the lady, was it from Jamaica that she was?
Jamaica.
Yes,
Jamaica.
Reading her books in Jamaica and other places as well. So again, this is a brand that has been built by intention and by consistent behavior. So if you are looking to build a brand around something authentic to you, whether it is a value or whether it's a type of work such as your publishing or whatever the case may be, then know that you've got to be in there for the long haul. And don't get discouraged, because you have a bit of brilliance in you. There is something that life has placed in you that you are intended to share with others. And when you do that, you will shine. And so thank you, Andrea, for letting us see a bit of your life. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you pretty soon about those other developments you were talking about earlier.
And thank you for having me. It was great speaking to you. This was so much fun.
And there you have it. This week's information to inspire and empower you to unbox your brilliance. It's time for you to write your book, build your brand, and live your dream. If you are ready to step up, step out, and get noticed, then be sure to attend my new webinar. Go to monicacartertagore.com/personal-branding-webinar to register.